So first up, I am going to introduce our panel. First up, we have Shaheen Bimani. We're going to welcome Shaheen up. Thank you so much. We'll give Shaheen a round of applause. All right. Any chair you would like. Shaheen is the founder and owner of Second Den, which I just love that name. I think it's so great. Owns investment properties in the Rocky Mountain region and locally as well. Is that correct? Awesome. And yeah, focused on short-term rentals. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Shaheen has stepped in as Clayton sends his regrets this evening. He's not feeling well, so we're sending him warm wishes for a quick recovery. Next up, I'm excited to welcome up Andrew Lonegreen, member of the Mogul Realty Group. Let's give him a round of applause. And I think this, whatever chair you'd like, I think this is maybe your first panel? Yes, welcome up. So excited to have Andrew here. The perspective Andrew is bringing is as a house hacker. Does anyone know what a house hacker is? Okay, I see some nods, some shakes. Carlos, do you want to tell us what a house hacker is? Yep. Yeah, and you're essentially living in the property. So you're living in the property and you have renters in the property as well, right? That could be through a short-term rental like Andrew here is doing. Next up, I want to invite Shanna Badriap. Let's give Shanna a round of applause. I was speaking with Carlos earlier, and Carlos was telling me that Shanna is a bit, I don't want to stand in your guys' way here. Shanna is a bit of a, I don't know what the right, like you're like a celebrity a little bit in the Airbnb space. From what I understand from Carlos over here, we're really excited to have you, founder of Momentum Property Group, 15 years in real estate. I have specific instructions of where to stand, and I'm outside the box right now, so I will stand right here. And does long-term, short-term rentals, renovations, development, basically you name it, she has done it. So we're really excited to have her here. Personal time, woodworking, I hear, gardening, very excited. So much to talk about, but it won't be me hosting this evening. I am thrilled to welcome up Mr. Devin Gray, whom you met earlier. Devin is like Mr. Humble. I was given specific instructions as well, not to go crazy on the introduction, but I will say this. He's been an investor in real estate for over 15 years. He's a member of the Mogul Realty Group team, and he's pretty fantastic. So welcome up, Devin.
Okay, so based on the fact that, no, I this way I can stand. Oh, you're going to put me on. Okay. All right. So I'll bring this around a little bit. So thank you very much. It's great to have this panel here. First off, before we start asking questions, I would like, by a show of hands, who has at least one short-term rental in this room? About a few of you. How many have over 5? And how many have over 10? So a few. So we could have a few people on this panel. So first off, I think that's fantastic for those of you that are here, because clearly you could be teaching courses, but instead you've come to the audience and to sit and to learn. So give these people a round of applause for being here. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Okay, so and also Shaheen, thank you so much for standing in short term. I tried to find you to share the questions. So what's that? Short term for short term. I'm going to be greedy and hang on to the mic, and you three are going to have to share. So, okay. So the first question obviously is, and we'll start with Shaheen. How did you get started in short-term rentals? How long you been doing it, and how many do you have? Let's hear a little bit of history.
So,
and please, you'll just have to get it right up here.
get it right there. Okay. So I've always been interested in short-term rentals, and so I think I got started about 4 or 5 years ago, and where I converted one of my long-term rentals in Edmonton to a short-term rental, and then I ended up working with a business partner, and we were managing about 50 units in Edmonton. So I got to learn the business a little bit, and then this thing called COVID came around, so that kind of scared us a little bit. But nonetheless, I decided to put my eggs into the Rocky Mountain region, and I've been investing and managing properties out there. So that's my story.
Sounds great. Same question to Shanna. Thank you so much for being here, Shanna. And the Let's hear how you got started in short-term rentals.
I've been doing short-term rentals since 2017. I started because a mentor of mine in California was getting into short-term rentals, and he got me hooked on it as well. And so that was a trend that was happening there before it was happening here. So that was, I guess I had a leg up on getting into the trend when
Great.
that happened.
And Andrew?
Right on. Hey, thanks. Hey, everyone. So for myself, I got into house hacking with my first house as a townhouse. So, I always had the idea. I bought a 3-bedroom townhouse, made sure it was 3 bedrooms, had 2 of my friends living in there with me. Ended up moving out, basically rented a room so that I could substantiate the rent in the townhouse to qualify for another mortgage. So you can house hack, you can repeat that process at a high ratio mortgage for 5% down, just by substantiating the rental income from the property that you currently live in. And I repeated that process with a second place with an illegal suite in the basement. Currently it's being rented out for like $1,850 upstairs and I think like $800 in the basement. And I'm keeping a lot of my stuff stored in the basement. So it's an agreement that we have. And then I moved on to a third house where it's a 3-bedroom upper, 3-bedroom lower, legally suited place. And when I moved in, the seller had students lined up for the entire year. So I had students go through the year. In the summer, I switched over to Airbnb, made some tremendous profits off of that. And yeah, been continuing here. September, it dried up a little bit. And actually my last clients on Airbnb were looking for a midterm rental with exactly like what Adrian was saying, where they just sold their house. They had 2 days to figure out a place to stay. So we made an agreement where Airbnb was going to charge them $3,400 for 6 weeks. So I said $3,000 for 6 weeks, and then we can do $1,800 after that. So there you go.
Sounds great. Now we've talked about medium term and short term rentals. Some people actually define it as simply Airbnb, just kind of almost more like Kleenex for tissue paper, I think. How do you define? Let's go back to Shaheen here. How do you define? Like, how do you run your short term rentals? What do you define in terms of the product that you have out there to be available for residents?
So mine are strictly, I would consider vacation rental. So I don't do any midterm. Everything that I do is less than 28 days. Yeah, so that's the kind of clientele that I'm looking for. I'm looking for, the people, because I'm in the Rocky Mountain region, the skiers, the families that come there for hiking, golfing, etc. So that's what I focus on.
So before we move on to Shanna, so was that the plan from the beginning, or did you just kind of fall into that, or did you how did that evolve into that type of product?
That was the plan. I mean, partly I love the mountains. I love Canmore. I go there enough. So that was purposeful. So that's the kind of clientele I'm looking for. So mostly families is what I get, and that's working for me.
Now, Shanna, you actually have a connection to Canmore, and so I'm curious about hearing about that, and then also just in regards to how did you get into short-term rentals, and how do you define short-term rentals with your product?
Sure. So to me, a short-term rental, I would say one of the fundamental qualities is the person can just show up with their suitcase and their groceries, and they have everything they need to live in the property. And so that works whether they're on vacation or a work trip, and no matter how long they're staying for. I have had some condos in Canmore, so those were indeed vacation rentals, and you generally didn't get people for longer times. When I started in Edmonton, I started with short-term, very short rentals as well. Found those to be somewhat problematic. You end up with a lot of like vacancy in between the bookings, and sometimes your weekend guests are not the best people. They want to just come in for a party kind of thing. So over time in Edmonton, we've drifted more towards the medium rentals. But we would do, for example, you might have someone come for 3 weeks. I'm good with that. You might have someone come for 6 weeks. Maybe in the middle, you have 2 weeks empty or 10 days empty. It's nice to have the option to rent it for, even if it's just a week. Like, you're not getting someone to come for a party if they're staying for 7 nights. So it's nice to have those flexible options to do short or medium term, and having a furnished property gives you that flexibility.
And Andrew, how about you? It sounds like you actually had a bit of a specific game plan there, or how did you decide that this was the first property you wanted to have with short-term rental?
Yeah, I mean, so I had heard, I'm sure we've all heard really great stories about Airbnb and everything. So I thought I'd just give it a whirl. And it absolutely worked out for June, July, August. I think my profit margin in August was, well, anyways, I made I think it was $3,300 just for August. We're talking about like a 3-bedroom, very small square footage basement. So come on, you can't get better than that. I was renting, it's right off Alberta Ave, so it's, an irreputable area of the city. However, it attracts guests like crazy because it's within walking distance to the stadium, walking distance to Commonwealth and to Rexall or Rogers or whatever places. And also, you guys kind of touched on it, but having it fully furnished, I heard Adrian say some things as well about towels, having, water and stuff in there for them. Absolutely have all the features sort of maximized out. So it's not just a couple of beds and that's it. And, I was attracting people like crazy. And that this is to say too, that they have a flexible pricing option with the Airbnb, and I had it on the absolute lowest that you can charge, just because I wanted to have low vacancy. And with the absolute lowest that I can charge, I still made, over $3,000 in August. Right. So.
And are you specific with Airbnb?
Yeah, so I did, I have been using Airbnb, but with what Adrian, I was talking to him the other day, and I have been thinking about moving into try out VRBO. I've got some students moving in January, February timeframe. So I was thinking March until summer, I'm going to try out VRBO, see if it works out or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk in a little bit about pros and cons and time commitments and various things like that. But we're going to get into some of the technical stuff at first, just so that people can get a better sense. And so I might run down some of these questions all to each of you so that you can kind of get your mind wrapped around this. So one of the things that I do think that some people struggle a little bit to understand how it works in terms of costs and various things like that is for cleaners. So how do you manage your cleaner? Who does the cleaning? How much do you pay them?
That's always a challenge there, but cleaners in the Canmore region are really expensive, right? I think it's definitely a shortage of cleaners. I'm currently looking at other solutions, but right now I'm paying. It can be up to $35 an hour. That's what we're paying for cleaners right now. And
okay. As for, do you put time limitations on your stays, a minimum or maximum? And you mentioned you're looking for vacation because it's in Canmore, so you've answered that question. But is there time limitations, minimums or maximums?
Yeah. So similar to what Shannon was saying, you obviously want to fill your calendar, right? So what I do is my strategy is to, if people are booking longer out, I do, greater minimums, and then as they get closer, you want to fill your calendar, you push that down, right? So it's very rare. I try not to do one night stays, but occasionally I do those. And
where do you advertise?
I'm on Airbnb, started out primarily, but I'm on VRBO and the VRBO partners, so all the Expedia, TripAdvisor, all those ones. And I'm on booking.com, and and it's going to be self-booking in about a month.
Okay. And I want to talk to you about that tech side in a little bit here, but how do you find your comparable nightly rates? Are you just basically watching, and if you're not getting anything, you lower? Or I know Airbnb can help with that, but how do you go about choosing your rates?
So there's lots of tools out there that can help you. Like AirDNA is a great tool that can help you with rates. Price Labs is another one that can help you with rates. And you got to kind of find. So if you have those tools set up, and then you can also look at, try to find who your competitors are, competitive properties, and you can kind of watch the rates and make sure you're within range, and and then just do that over and over.
Okay. I'm actually going to pass these next question on to Shanna here. So how do you manage your check-in? What's your check-in, check-out policy? How do you collect money? How do you handle with late check-ins or late check-outs?
So the person's booking through a booking platform like Airbnb or vrbo, they handle the payments. So that's pretty easy. Check in and check out. We use, we have an app. In Canmore, we were just giving them a code. We had a lock system where you could just generate a new code for each guest for the exact dates and times of their stays. In Edmonton, we sort of need an extra level of security because there's more problems. The price point is lower. I think the lower your price point is, the more likely that you're going to end up with a problem. If you price it too low, you're going to have some problems. So in Edmonton, we use an app that actually gives guests access using their phone number. So we give access only to the person who makes the booking using the phone number on their Airbnb account. And they're the only one that can unlock the door. So they can't, give it to someone else. Some random person shows up at your house, that kind of thing. Sorry, did I get all the questions?
Well, yeah, you did. I'm actually just asking what your cleaning situation will be.
Oh, okay. And you said late check-ins early.
Late check-ins, yeah,
And
late
checkouts.
check-ins, late checkouts.
Okay. So for cleaning, we try to get our cleaners to agree to a flat rate for each property. And that way we can charge that flat rate to the guests. So in theory, I don't try and make money off the cleaning fee. It's already expensive enough for the guests. So try to just make it a wash and pay enough that you can get a good quality cleaner. Because I personally, if your property isn't clean and a guest shows up, you're either getting a bad review or you're getting a pain in the butt because they call you and say something's dirty and you have to spend time either apologizing, fixing it, etc. It's better to just have a nice clean property, get good reviews. So I try to just make it a wash. What I pay is what I charge the guest, flat across. In Canmore, it was definitely hard to find cleaners. I actually started a cleaning company there because of that. No, it's closed now. I have no properties in Canmore anymore. Late check-in. So my check-in time is 4 to 10 p.m. because I manage my own and I like to go to sleep at night and I don't want to be having problems. If the guest cannot get into the property and they call Airbnb and say, I can't get in, and Airbnb phones you and you're not available, they could do any number of horrible things to you, like cancel the entire booking and give you no money, all sorts of things like that. So you want to make sure that you're available. So for me, I have my check-in time in Edmonton from 4 to 10 p.m. That way I am awake and available. And if I have some automation that sends me a reminder, like a guest is checking in today, the reminder goes to me at 9 p.m. Check if this person has arrived. I can look on my lock system, see if they've unlocked the door. If they haven't, I send them a message and says, hey, our check-in time is 10 o'clock before 10 p.m. Are you almost there? That kind of thing. So trying to just prevent problems with people not being able to check in. And then late checkouts doesn't happen very often at all. We have reminders sent to the guest. We have it in writing in our guest binder in the house, what the checkout time is. And so it's pretty clear that they need to be out, and mostly they are.
Great. Okay, Andrew, I'm curious about your situation for cleaning.
Okay, yeah. So for my situation for cleaning, like I live in the place upstairs, right? So I decided that I would take that over for the summer when I'm trying it out. I did search around for cleaners for a little bit, and finding short-term cleaners is very hard because they have to be extremely flexible and be able to book you in for something that some clients or whatever could have just booked like a day or two prior, right? So the cleaning service, the short-term cleaners need to be a flexible cleaning company, and I actually might be able to hook you up with a friend of mine who I met actually at the last event here, who met a Filipino guy who does a short-term cleaning company basically for Airbnbs. So he's just a flexible, single person who's available for, a period of hours throughout the day, maybe cleans like 1 or 2 suites for, the Airbnbs, and then he moves on. My cleaning fee was pretty cheap. I think I was charging like $30, and, I'd go down there, I'd change the sheets, do all the cleaning and everything. So for $30 a night. Big negative point though is that you have to be available for those times to do the actual cleaning. Right, so I got my checkout time at 10 and my check-in time at 1, I believe. So I got 3 hours to be available and do all that cleaning for to prep for the next guests coming in. But an absolutely huge market. I'm telling you right now, a huge gold mine market right now for a short-term cleaning rental cleaning company.
So on that note, because you have definitely decided to put some time into this to save some money and also a lot from necessity. Let's talk about your time commitment. I do want to go all the way down the panel here. So Andrew, what can somebody who's never done this before, what can they expect from a time commitment, start to finish? Start from, okay, tomorrow I want to start doing, let's say you've got the property. You've decided that you're going to do a short-term rental. Take me through what you did to get that up and running, and then the ongoing aspect of continuing to run that property.
Yeah, absolutely. I started out on the app. I uploaded it.
This is the Airbnb app?
On Airbnb as a host, and my definition of the property and all my particular criteria for what I require and all my rules and everything. I just left it totally open-ended, kind of like ignorantly, but I thought that it would be a good marketing for people, just seeing like, oh, this guy, this place is nice and easy to deal with, and it sort of opened things up for marketing. Big mistake, causes a lot of problems. Yeah. So I had people like breaking house rules. I had people doing all kinds of stuff. So immediately I basically copy and pasted off a couple Google searches, some really templated house rules for Airbnb. And it worked out really great like that. For time commitments though, once I had the app set up, it's pretty much hands-free because I've got a keypad door system. So I just text them, that your password is your last 4 digits of your phone number. It takes me a minute. I punch it in there at some point. I can even do it like a week in advance or a couple days in advance, whatever. So essentially I only need to be available for those 3 hours for cleaning. And I just wanted to touch on one more thing too. You asked about minimum stay. So minimum stay for Airbnb, I ran into a lot of problems having a 1-night minimum stay, a lot of problems. Once again, irreputable characters doing like last minute bookings in the middle of the night, coming in, doing, you can only guess what they're doing down there. And so I quickly promptly changed that to 2-day stay minimum. And that got rid of a lot of my problems. And I did deal with squatters as well. Sorry, there's just so many things coming up. I did deal with squatters as well for once or twice. And that was interesting because, what do you do?
Yeah.
You call the police, I guess. I tried messaging Airbnb and they didn't respond to me within, a day or so or whatever. But meanwhile, this place is like, it's booked. There's more guests coming. I can't physically go down and remove them. Like, I could, but it's not gonna. It's assault.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to hear time commitment from Shanna, and I guess we'll also go time commitment and
Short-term rental therapy.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to save that stuff for later, but
So my experience is that when you want to do short-term rentals, you either want to do one, I got one in my basement. It's so nice and easy. If the guest has a problem, hey, I'll just pop down and take a look at it. Or if you need supplies, or if you got to fix something or look at something. Also, I find it to be more time commitment for messaging people. The thing is that you need to be available pretty much 24/7. And the more you have people coming and going, the more correspondence you're going to have with people, because they arrive, they have questions, they don't know where to park, they don't know how to do this or that, or how does this work? And the more you have, the more you're going to get those messages, the more problems you're going to have. And, the problems seem to always happen when it's least convenient for you, right? You're out for dinner and, oh, look, I'm going to spend my whole dinner out dealing with this issue or things like that. So I would say either if you have a small number that you can manage yourself, good. If you have a large number where you can hire people to help you with it. If you have something in the middle and you're doing it all yourself, you're going to go crazy, which is why I'm so happy I sold all my properties in Canmore this spring.
And Shaheen, how about you? Time and just a challenge that you overcame.
So I think, so to just automation is important, right? So a lot of the communication that I have and check-ins, check-outs, communication with the cleaners, like a lot of that stuff is automated. Like, so sometimes, my phone's silent, like, I have, weeks where, I've had no issues, right? But then you get the odd guests that are, upset or something like that, like the communication sometimes does take time, right? And that's something that I know in the future that I need to, have somebody help me out with, right? But I'm not there yet. So
Now, when we first met, because you're you're into technology, and that's a big focus of who you are, and I think that's what drew you to the short-term rentals and the ability to build systems around that. You just talk a little bit about what you have done that you feel is a little innovative to the industry, that you would say, hey, well, this is something that wasn't out there and I've created this.
I think it's all out there. Like there's just so many solutions. Like once you get there, like there's so many ways to, pieces of software that you can use, right? I think it's just getting them to all play together nicely is that's the challenge, right? So if you look at, the core, you got a property management system, which, and there's so many players out there, and then they integrate with Airbnb, vrbo, and all the other tools. And so you just got to find the set of tools that work for you and speak with your property management system. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So nothing truly innovative,
Yeah,
but
fair enough. I'm going to go back to Shanna and Andrew here, because all I heard when you two met and started chatting was about taxes. So, and you just said, make sure, well, I don't even know if you said about time, but I was like, I need to make sure that there is a quick conversation about taxes. So I guess I'll just ask you to, what were you discussing, and what should people know about, or how about what should everybody know about when it comes to taxes, when it comes to short-term rentals?
I can't remember what the specific question was, but we were talking about taxes that as it pertains to short-term rentals. So short-term rentals, you need to collect GST and remit it to the government. Airbnb can do that for you now. Vrbo does not do that, so you have to do that yourself. And in Alberta, you now also have to collect the tourism levy, 4% on any stage less than 28 days. You need to collect that and file a filing every quarter with the government and remit that to them as well. So a little bit of burden there. And then in terms of income, you're just reporting that as income, however you make it personally or corporately, the same as you would with any other income.
Andrew, anything to add?
No, yeah, same kind of thing. We were just discussing. The question came up because of myself, really. I looked on Airbnb, and they sent me a letter. They sent everybody a letter about they were changing their policy on taxes. So it was more so a technical question on GST, and Shanna answered just perfectly.
So I'm curious in regards to, so somebody's going to go out tomorrow and they're going to say, okay, I don't have any rental properties. I want to get into short-term rentals. What sort of property should I be looking for? What makes a good property for short-term rentals? So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, for sure. So same thing, like location, right? Accessible. Most of these people are travelers coming from out of town. They're either, because I got the story from most of them coming through. Usually it's either travelers or people coming to Edmonton for an event. So that's kind of the tenant profile. And sorry, just touch on the question again. Sorry, what exactly was it?
Well, just was curious in regards to what you feel somebody should be looking for. If they're going out tomorrow to look for a property, what should they, what made you decide that the property that you have is going to make a good short-term rental?
Yeah, so I kind of lucked out because I didn't decide that. But after I did go on Airbnb, I found that the utilities and stuff that I do have there, like I've got an enclosed space in the back, so I did allow pets with a small pet fee. Do not recommend it unless you want to have a large pet fee, because they bring the most sheddiest dogs that chew or do.
You said that the dog sheds. Shed, be clear, not the other word.
Sheddiest. You same difference, but anyways, so that's a huge market for me. Not many guests come through with animals, but just having all the amenities open. So like I said, having a place that provides cleaning products to them, like Windex, paper towel and stuff like that. All of your amenities like towels, face cloths, dish rags and all that stuff, soap and, all the obvious things. Having it fully stocked absolutely attracts a lot of business. Yeah.
So Shaheen and Shanna, you're both in Canmore. Obviously that makes a lot of sense from a location standpoint, but there's a lot of properties in Canmore. what made you decide to buy the ones you did have?
Could just comment in general. I think that a good choice for property is where there's a supply demand imbalance. So it doesn't matter which type of property it is. I know people who do condos downtown. I know Carlos, he does huge houses. I have a huge house. I have a basement suite. I have a condo, and then we had condos in Canmore. It doesn't really matter. The thing is that you need to have the product that someone wants, that there's not an oversupply of. And within the last few years, Airbnb has gotten really, short-term rentals have gotten really popular. And now the market's basically saturated, except if you can find a niche where there's a certain type of product that's in demand and not enough of that product. So I would say that's the fundamental underlying thing. And that's what happened with us in Canmore as well. Even though there's lots of vacation rentals there was still more people coming than the number of vacation rentals there. And so that's why that was a great choice.
Anything to add, Shaheen?
Yeah, I think she hit it on the mark. Like you got to go where the demand is, and that's where would be the best place to invest. There's a tool called AirDNA where you can punch in the address, and it can kind of give you an estimate of what that property will make in that area, and then you can kind of drill down to see, okay, who are the top performers in that area, and do some research before you dive in.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I was introduced, and maybe some of you have heard about this. It's not something new. It's been around for a long time, but a friend of ours who's a real estate agent in Phoenix, Arizona, was telling us about a concept called crash pads, which is basically a property that's relatively close to an airport that basically is rented out long term to a group of flight attendants or pilots or stuff like that. And they will, because a lot of times they'll have 24 or 48-hour layovers. And so nobody really lives there, but there's just multiple beds in there. You either can pay a certain fee to rent out a bed that gets used by various people, or you could also pay a higher fee where that bed is exclusive to that person. And the term in the industry is crash pads. And so then that got talking about there's something similar for traveling nurses that would be something focused on people that are coming in and that. So it is about finding that specific niche. We just got a couple minutes left here. So I'm just going to, there's so many questions I wanted to ask, but I'll start with Shaheen here and we'll work our way down. If there's one system that you cannot live without when it comes to running your business, what would that be?
I think it's the property management system that manages your calendar. I think that's probably the most important.
Shanna?
Okay, well, just to pick something different, I'm going to pick your bookkeeping system, because if you don't know if you're making money, then it's not worth anything. The thing is, too, we were talking about pricing. Yeah, you look at your competitors, but after you've been in operating for a while, you're your own best comparable. I look at when somebody asks me for a price for a 3-month stay or whatever, I go and look in my books at what I made for those months the previous year, and I quote them a little bit more than last year. And every year I try and get a little bit more and a little bit more. And but you have to have that information available. And if you don't have it, or you're losing money, or you won't see it for a long time if you don't have your books together.
Okay, Andrew, system?
That's brilliant. First of all, I'm going to be doing that this summer, so thanks for that. And yeah, second of all, too, would be the property management. So, I've had a couple conversations with some of you guys who have multiple Airbnbs, 10 units, 20 units, whatever. And the biggest issue that I find is, moving from a small amount of Airbnbs to a large amount of Airbnbs. It's so manageable for myself to, take care of it. I live upstairs, right? But essentially my strategy for the future, because of management and not ruining my entire day for this Airbnb, is going to be, I want to find a family who's going to live in the upstairs and can potentially make income or have a discounted rental rate and manage my Airbnb in the basement at the same time. So it's getting the best of both worlds. Having somebody live on the property, and then maybe one day if I get to 10 or 20 Airbnbs, then actually look at a legitimate mentee or somebody who can be a better partner for me. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, we're all out of time for the panel, but we have time for how many questions, Jen? 3 questions. Does anybody have a question? Yes.
Can you talk about student houses and having their Airbnb in the basement about some?
So the question was about student houses. Oh, sorry, about soundproofing houses. Shanna.
I can take that one. I've renovated a lot of houses and put in basement suites. So I would say when I started with short-term rentals in my house, in my basement, it was not a legal suite and there was no soundproofing. That was okay, depending on how many guests there were and what type of guests. Now, during the pandemic, we did renovate our suite. So you want specific soundproofing ideas or? Yeah, even in Canmore where there's, the buildings are built for short-term rentals and they're soundproof fairly well, you still get complaints if people are being idiotic. So if there's no soundproofing, then it's going to be even more of an issue. I can give you some ideas maybe after the meeting or.
Sounds to me like try to do the best you can.
And just to touch on that, so one thing that I did was I put I think it's like a 10 o'clock curfew. So if they're making any noise, then, they have the right to whatever, get kicked out or whatever. So I have a curfew on there, free reign throughout the day, then curfew at nighttime hours.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes. So we'll give this to Shaheen. So the question for the online viewers is where else would you advertise short-term rentals besides the 2 main ones, Airbnb and vrbo?
I think, once you're on Airbnb and vrbo, you get quite a bit of bookings from them. And then, I'm also on booking.com. And so you do get a lot of business from them. I think if you want to go direct, which is my next strategy is to go direct. Yeah, then I will be sending out, do a little bit on Facebook where people can book direct. And the only reason behind that is, one is, you get to keep that customer. And second is, booking.com, all these channels, they do charge you, can be 15 to 20%. So try to get some of that money back. I get a little bit of traffic coming back, but because I'm in such a vacation resort place, like not much returning traffic, right? So.
And time for one last question. Yes, John.
I would say in general, I look at it like I need to be making more than my unfurnished long-term rentals, because otherwise, why would I go to the effort of putting all these furnishings in and turning it over more frequently? And it has to be more affordable for the person than a short-term rental. So the price is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and thank you for that question. So we are going to wrap up here, but just on that, I will ask this. What is a legitimate cost to furnish your rental? Because I think a lot of times people will offer up something that's way lower than what's legitimate. Let's each of you give a number.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say 15 to 20,000. I think is fair, depending on what you're putting in there. You can always buy quality or you can go cheap, right? But how many bedrooms is that? So I'd say about 20,000, 3-4 bedrooms.
Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on the quality of your furnishings. We did like solid wood furniture and TVs in every bedroom. Ours would be for 2-bedroom, like 20.
20. Andrew?
Yeah, sure. For myself, I bought the place fully furnished. So I
Okay.
included it in the house purchase.
Okay. Do have a question online. What insurance companies have you had success with in getting insurance for short-term rentals? That's too bad.
Can't remember who
Cal's
mine are
not
with.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Shane.
honestly, I can't remember who I'm with as well, but because 90%, well, most of my bookings come from through the channels. You do have some coverage through those channels, but I think there's an insurance broker here
I
somewhere.
think he left.
He left. So,
Yeah,
okay.
Mobile Insurance on our power team.
But yeah, I will have to look into a short-term rental solution.
All right.
My condos in Canmore were insured on a commercial policy through Peace Hills Insurance. That's the one I remember.
Okay. Andrew?
And yeah, I'd have to double check, but I remember calling my insurance company and it was just a slightly increased premium from a normal rental unit, because rental units are different than, residential houses or whatever that your family's going to live in. And it was just a little bit more, like a slightly higher premium.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Square.
Okay. I'll have you come back up and say that quickly so you can say it to the online people.
And one more thing while he's coming up, if you guys want Cal's info, the insurance guy, he's got a stack of cards over on the snack and refreshment table over there. So
just from the community here, really quick, it's if you are doing your Airbnbs like a sole proprietor through your personal name, Square is really, really good. That's well, it changes every year. If you're doing something corporate though, you'll probably need a corporate insurance, and I recommend cooperators.
All right. Thank you very much. We are all out of time. I really appreciate the panel coming up here and sharing all your expertise. So let's give them a